Hey, what's up, YouTube? Well, it's been a minute or two since I last posted a video. I think it's probably since I had the unboxing of the fireboard or whatever. But prior to that, I finally decided to dive into the 3D printer world, and this is kind of might be a little bit of a little bit different video. It's going to kind of talk about what 3D printer I got, what I've done to it, and what I plan to keep doing with it. So anyway, let's kind of get started. The 3D printer I bought is the Atillery X1, Sidewinder X1. And you can see it here. It's middle of a job. I say it's middle of a job. It's about 94% done. Anyway, this is a Cartesian printer, which is an X, Y, and Z printer. And from the factory, it's a great printer. I'm not gonna lie. Out of the box, you unbox it within an hour or two. After a little bit of calibration, you can get this thing up and running. So, it's a good printer for the money. I got this on Amazon for about $430, and have added probably another $350 to it to get it to where it's at right now. The few things that I have done, or one of the first things that I did, was I printed spool holders here, which are these. So from the factory, let me see if I can get my hand in here. From the factory, your spool holder is about the width of your spool here. And I'm printing on PLA using the Hatchbox PLA. But the spool holder is fastened to this extruded aluminum top gantry portion, with a couple of screws on the back side of here for each one of the spool holders. And the spool holder has bearings here that this spool will ride on. So to make it to where you can accommodate larger, heavier spools, you would have to unscrew the screws on the back and widen it out. So what this does is it makes it to where your spool width accommodation is pretty much as wide as you'll ever need it, and not have to worry about widening this out or making it adjustable or anything like that. But the Atillery Sidewinder X1 is a great printer. From the factory, it comes with a touch screen. It does not come with this here. It was an add-on. I'll talk about it here in a minute. But from the factory, it is a great printer. It comes with a filament sensor, which detects when the filament runs out, and it'll actually pause the printer. Now that was with the previous screen. Incorporates with the board on the inside of this unit. But it actually will stop the print, pause the print, and allow you to put filament in, load more, and continue the print. So once I got it assembled, it was always wise to, and these are just off of some of the videos that I watched, it was recommended to do a test print, which test print was really good. Zeroing the setting your Z height was simple. It took me a while, but it was a complete pain. I say it was simple. It took me a while to do because of the bed leveling screws on the bottom are kind of in an awkward position. I got fairly large hands, or average size, I would say, not small, but they're harder to get to, and to level it requires you kind of have some dexterity in your fingers, and I typically don't. My hands kind of cramp up pretty easy. But anyway, once it was leveled, it was fairly easy to start printing on. So, I printed some test pieces, and then I started reading some more on how to fine tune it. I started out with the Cura 4.6 slicer, did a few things with that, and I wanted more, so I started doing more research, and I figured out that I could upgrade my fan shroud and provide a little bit better cooling, which this is one of the first things I ever printed. So it looks kind of gnarly right there, and I think I printed that on a raft. Didn't have my settings fully dialed in, and I'm still tweaking some of the settings. It still looks really good, and the parts are really usable, but I'm still fine tuning some stuff. But another thing that I printed were, of course, the end caps right there. And I think the other thing I originally printed was the cover to this, because of it fixing a few things. I like the way the cover was situated. Not to mention that this lever here was prone to breaking, and by 3D printing one, it kind of fixes a little bit of the issues that were known to this printer. I think the third thing I printed or designed was this mount here. This is the second version of the mount. This mount, I decided to go with the auto bed leveling kit. So this ABL kit is provided by a company by the name of TH3D. You can go to their website at th3dstudios.com, and you can buy all the parts and pieces that I've got on this one to make it function like mine does. Mine's not perfect. I'm still learning, but it works really well. Ultra reliable. So in order to get the ABL, well, let's step back a little bit. What is the ABL? The Easy ABL is a bed leveling sensor that creates a grid or a mesh of Z height adjustments or corrections that are applied to your overall print prior to the actual printing process. So it calibrates itself prior to each print. So your bed and your part is always level, the most level it can possibly be before you even start. And I think that's helped. One of the second things I purchased was the Easy Flex Plate system. It's a magnetic flex build plate. I've got two different versions. I've got the smooth, which is what's being used right now. And I've also, let's see if I can do this without turning everything off. I've also got the textured, which is kind of cool. It gives it a completely different finish, which is really nice. So what these are SSD to 3.5-inch full-size hard drives, adapters I'm making for a client of mine. And this is the first batch that are being printed sequentially using Idea Maker. That's the current slicer I'm running right now, is the most recent version of Idea Maker. So once I got this, I decided, okay, well, what other things can I do with this that will help me print efficiently, even whenever I'm at work. So I opted to get a Raspberry Pi. I went back to TH3D and purchased the Easy Pi kit, the Easy Pi Pro, and the Easy Pi Pro. Let's see if I can turn this on here. Easy Pi Pro is right there. It's a little Raspberry Pi unit that they sell. Comes pre-configured, but it works great. It's got a web interface, and it allows you to monitor the upload prints from the web interface from your computer remotely, and it's an awesome piece. So, in talking about the Raspberry Pi or the Easy Pi Pro, The EasyPi Pro is based off of a build of Octoprint. Octoprint has the ability to, like what I said before, you can stream your webcam feed. If you choose to, you can remote monitor it or whatever. Now, I'm going to get into some changes that I made to that here pretty quick. So, in order to get this to work, the Is the Abl, I had to do this mod here. And this is an upgraded LCD from TH3D. It's a complete retrofit kit that plugs into your existing board, your existing controller board, and you have to. There's some pretty explicit instructions that you have to follow. It's not rocket science, and it's fairly easy to do. But what it does is it gives you a completely different level of control. You can fine tune it. You can do whatever. You can turn the LEDs off. You can control it. You can all kinds of things. But you need this in order to use the Is the Abl. So I had to get this installed to even get that to work. So this is priority number one in the phase of getting things to work. So I got this installed first. Then I installed the EasyPi, which I had originally created a mount that went over on the far side over here where those two screw mounts are. Or mounting points right back there. I had another mount designed and created. I designed everything in Fusion 360. It's a free software package by Autodesk. And I got all of those, the mount created for it. And it looks an awful lot like how it's mounted now, where it's got it basically fits in between these rails here, and there's two more on the back side. But it's an aluminum case. It fits really well within those, and I designed that. This is, like I said, this part here is a completely one-off design part that I did for the LCD, and I'll talk about that here in a second. But the EasyPi was mounted over on this side initially, and it worked great. And in doing so, when I ordered the EasyPi kit, I also ordered the webcam. The webcam is just one that they sell on their website, and it allows you to monitor your build and real time via your Octoprint web application. So that's all fine and dandy if you're locally on your network. But how do you monitor it remotely? Well, there are some plugins that you can download. One of them is the Spaghetti Detective. It's a free one initially. If you don't go over so many hours, it actually uses AI to detect whether or not a print has failed, and it will send you text messages if the print's failed, or if it detects some irregularities with the print. It'll let you know there might be something, how it calls, fishy going on with it. And so I utilize that, and I also utilize Astroprint. Astroprint allows you to upload prints or monitor prints from a cloud-based system. So I got that installed, which allowed me to install that, and it works in conjunction with the Raspberry Pi, the EasyPi, the Is the Abl, and the webcam, and it just works really well. So I was like, okay, well, this is great. I love the LCD, but from afar, if I'm walking down the hallway, I want to be able to, at a glance, kind of see how things are progressing without jumping onto the web interface of or EasyPi or Octoprint or any of that. So I did a little research and stumbled across a video where a guy was using a 7-inch Raspberry Pi LCD screen. It was the official one, and it was running a touch interface that was designed specifically to work with Octoprint. I'm like, man, that's freaking cool. So I was like, okay, if I get something like that and it fits my need, that I can see it from a distance at a glance if I'm walking down the hall, or if I glance over, turn my head on the computer and see exactly what's going on. It shows every bit of information that I possibly need. This isn't the interface I originally discovered. This one is actually called Octadash. The original one was Octa LCD or something like that, but it didn't look as good as this one here. So Octoprint has Octoprint has the ability to install plugins. The plugins allow you to stream the video, or you utilize Spaghetti Detective or different things. They're just little plugins that allow more functionality. So in order to get this to work, they don't have a plugin on the official plugin store for Octopi. So it is one that you have to upload to your Raspberry Pi. Raspberry Pi runs an incredibly small version of Debian. It's a Linux operating system. It runs on a little 32 gig micro SD, and it's super fast. The Raspberry Pi is built in wireless. This is a Raspberry Pi 4B is the version or the model of Raspberry Pi that I'm running. Built-in Wi-Fi. It's got Ethernet, USB 3 on two of the ports, and it's an incredible little device. But you have to use PuTTY to get into it to do this. So initially, the version of Octoprint that came on my Raspberry Pi was the version 1.18, I believe. And I spent a day or more trying to figure out why this would not load. It just flat would not load. It was giving me all kinds of dependency errors, and I thought, well, screw it. I can always load the original version back onto the SD card, and what do I got to lose? I don't have a whole lot of settings in there. All of my G-code files are locally on my machine if I need to upload them again. They were all test prints, some other ones, but realistically, I didn't have anything to lose. So I loaded an older version of Octoprint on here, and all my errors went away. So I got that to work. But prior to that, I had to figure out a way of mounting the LCD to the printer. So I designed this mount in Fusion 360 that mounts the LCD screen. I found this on Thingiverse and I printed it out and took the feet that came with the screen bezel and the housing, and basically took my micrometer and built a mount for this screen. So in doing so, I wanted to also, when I was designing the mount, to be able to run my Raspberry Pi on one side, because if you look back here, the cabling is a ribbon cable and a little USB cable. The ribbon cable provides the video, the USB cable provides power, and pretty much just power. But when you get it in the box, it just comes with about 4 little 4-inch cables, and they're just not long enough. So I had an old USB cable that was 4-wire, soldered the new ends on, made myself a cable, and that's what I'm running back here. That black wire, you can see right there, that black wire is a repurposed USB cable that provides me an interface from the monitor to the Raspberry Pi, because the Raspberry Pi is actually intended to mount on the back of the TV screen or the LCD screen, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to mount it underneath right there. So that's what I did. Ordered the longer ribbon cable on Amazon for like $9. It comes in a kit of 5 or 6 in varying lengths. But this is a completely touch screen monitor or LCD screen. You can go through and pause it, adjust it. You can adjust temperatures and micro adjustments, all of that stuff. So it's a great, and it was cheap. It was like $60. All in all, the Easy Pi Pro was $120, $124, pre-configured. If you provide them with the wireless information, they'll set that up for you before you even get it, and it just joins your wireless network automatically, so you can start working. So I designed this mount. You can actually find it on Thingiverse now, and use it on your build if you want to. I included the LCD mount and the Raspberry Pi mount and the mount to the LCD screen in 2 separate files. This mount here takes about 28 hours to print because of all of the support. You have to print it, essentially, this being the bottom, and this being the surface that is touching the build plate. You have to print it vertically because of the way that the mounts are back here, because they're all printed into the unit itself. So it takes a while, and it uses quite a bit of filament. Let's see what else. Oh, I printed the LED bar mounts here, and I found this on Thingiverse too. These are just light bar mounts that I found on Thingiverse, and I used the exact same LED light that the original maker suggested and got it going. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's kind of where I'm at with this thing. It's actually streaming to YouTube right now, and that's another thing too. With the Octoprint 1.18, I believe it was, correct me if I'm wrong, it would not work with the webcam stream plugin that will tie to your YouTube channel and stream every time you start a print. Would not do it. But as soon as I loaded the older version, it started working. So just keep that in mind. If things aren't working, if you buy a Raspberry Pi unit from TH3D and you want some of the cool plugins, you might end up reloading an older version of Octoprint on there to get things to work. Let me see what else. Oh, and the latest thing I'm doing is I'm having to building some supports for the Z stabilization. So the gantry has a tendency to have vibrations because of the mass up here and the motion down here. So the Z Stabilization mod essentially will allow me to, let's see if I can get this here, mount one of these parts up here. There's going to be a rod that runs from here to another part that mounts down here. The rod will go from that hole up to the other part up at the top of this bearing plate, and that rod will actually lock this gantry into the base down here much more securely, and it won't have this front to back motion, which causes the infamous Z wobble that you get sometimes from the vibrations of this printer. So anyway, I know this is kind of a longer video. It's probably pushing almost 20 minutes of me blabbering about it. Yeah, I run Idea Maker, like I said before, for my slicer, and I've tweaked several settings to get it to work the way I want. So, they're done. Sequential printing. Look that up. It actually speeds things up, so it's pretty awesome. Yeah. It kicks them out to the front. Bam. Hot damn, they're done. Anyway, everybody, have a blessed rest of the week, and we will catch y'all later. Deuces.